Water is life's most basic need. So what happens if our water isn't clean? So the question is our water even safe? We spend summer days and nights on beautiful beaches like this.
Unfortunately, some of our beaches are not clean.
Not so long ago, water tests revealed not the most appetizing things. This basically means these microscopic organisms are indicating that this stuff is in our water. This isn't new. This has been happening for a while. There are many people, for example, Jeremy Samuelson, Executive Director of Concerned Citizens of Montauk, and other groups working for clean water.
Yes, but we have a coming water crisis in our community.
What did he just say? He said there's a water crisis in our community. How could this even happen? This happens because of us. Me? Yes, you and everybody else. What do you mean by that?
There's an old line that goes, "We've seen the enemy and he is us." And what it means is that the problems that we face are largely of our own creation.
Faulty septic systems have an impact on our water quality.
Our human waste that goes through the pipes in our homes frequently goes to what amounts to a cement pit in our backyards. And unfortunately, recent studies have shown that we have a large percentage of the septic systems in our community that are either failing or were never properly installed or properly maintained.
The word septic actually means to be infected with bacteria. As you can see, the contents from the septic tank goes into a drain field, and the contents from the drain field goes through percolation and purification. But what happens when the septic tank was broken and it doesn't go through those two things? That could tremendously contaminate our water. Oh my goodness, Don't fret, there are many ways we can prevent this from happening.
As homeowners, we all have to take responsibility. I would encourage kids to ask their parents, where does our drinking water come from and how does our waste get handled at our home? Has that system been monitored and inspected within the last 5 years? And if the answer is no, then kids really need to encourage their parents to have a contractor come in and take a look at their system and make sure it's operating properly. Everything that we do on the surface of the land has an impact on the water that is in the ground beneath our feet. So if we go and put a bunch of chemicals on our lawn, eventually those are going to show up in our drinking water supply, and sometime after that they'll eventually make their way into our harbors, creeks, and bays.
That's weird. I can't find any dandelions. Oh wait, there they are. Even though the one on the right is prettier, the way it's maintained isn't. The one on the right is cared for with a lot of pesticides, which eventually ends up in our groundwater. So now which one is prettier? The one on the left, of course. Even though the field is overflowing with dandelions, it is more naturally maintained and better for the environment. To most people, this looks like a golf course, but to me, it looks like a major pollutant. Most golf courses rely on a toxic assortment of synthetic fertilizers, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, and other chemicals, which are linked to numerous diseases in humans and wildlife, which is why it isn't good for it to get into our water. However, there are many local groups who help make sure our water isn't contaminated with chemicals and harmful bacteria.
For the last 2 years, Concerned Citizens of Montauk has gone out on a weekly basis in the summertime and a monthly basis in the wintertime and collected water samples from about 15 different locations. We bring those back to a lab in our office and we process those through a 24-hour test that intentionally measures whether or not there is a very specific type of bacteria that is growing in the water. So while we also measure temperature for the water and air temperature and note other conditions at the time the test is taken, what we're really focused on is whether or not there's bacterial contamination in the water. The contamination that we're looking for is called enterococcus. And our testing over the last 2 years tells us that we have real water quality concerns in our community, particularly in warmer months. If you think about most types of bacteria, they're more inclined to grow in warmer settings rather than cooler settings. So that also corresponds to when more people are in our community, when we have more people who want to use the beaches, and we also have more people who are using our infrastructure, all of our septic and water infrastructure, our roads, and putting more pollutants into the environment. So right at the time when this bacteria that we're measuring for grows the easiest is also the time when we're having the greatest amount of impact in terms of doing the things that encourage that bacteria to pollute our water.
No matter where you look or who you ask, there's no denying that there's a serious water problem in our community. But there are steps we can take to resolve our water quality issues. Safe.
The first thing that we should all do is take a good look at your water. Ask yourself the question, where does it come from? A surprising number of people don't know whether they are on public water or whether their water comes from a well. And it's a really important question that as a resident in our community, you should be able to answer, because once you know the answer to that, it's going to tell you what direction you should go to answer the question, is my water safe? If somebody lives in a home that has a private well, take a good look at your water. If there's any odors or colors associated with it, and then just to make a habit of that. Do that as a practice. That's sort of the citizen science model of just looking, observing, taking note. When you're ready, I would encourage homeowners that are on wells to take the next step, and that's reach out to the Suffolk County Department of Health and have your water actually tested.
Even doing the smallest of things, like asking your parents where your water comes from,
has an impact on the world around us.
At the end of the day, making the right environmental choices can improve our water quality. Because hey, clean water is pretty...